am recording another debate team practice speech thing. Um, the last one you heard was declamation. This one I'm doing is for storytelling. It needs to be a minimum of 5 minutes. This story is one that I have personally written called Aparax Swath, and it is a sci-fi story. Hope you all enjoy. 5 minutes starting now. Year 6000, 7 p.m., the Australian left. I looked at my desk and decided whether or not I wanted to go to this date and time. I decided it seemed peaceful. I've never been that far in the future, though, so I don't know what it exactly looked like. This is 3,000 years after the Mexican-American War. Who knows how the Earth has changed since then. So I pressed the button and was off. It was the year 6000 now. I was in the middle of the Australian outback. In the distance, I saw the sun fall and the moon rise, and there was a small town with these lights. I went towards the town since it was the only thing close. Its name was Tool. I needed somewhere to stay, so I went to the town of Tool. I went to the inn. It was only inn in town, but it was rickety and rackety. I rang the bell, and it woke up the sleepy attendant who nearly fell off his chair. I arranged for my room with the attendant and paid him off, and went up to my room. That night, a flash went through the sky as I was reading my book on quantum mechanics. I didn't worry about it yet, but the next morning when I went out the door, there was a giant swath through the town, and there were Australian officials scattering about everywhere to check whether or not there was tons of damage, and they were questioning people. A man came up to me asking, "Would you like to sit down?" He was obviously an Australian official. When he sat down, he introduced himself to me as Mr. Daniel Walters. I introduced myself to him as Link Floyd. He asked me if there was anything I knew about the accident. All I told him is that I saw a quick flash through the sky. But before he left, I whispered to him, "There's a little bit more I think I could help you with." He questioned, "What do you think you can do to help us if all you know there's a flash through the sky?" So, to him, I flashed out a blank sheet of paper, but it was only blank for me. To him, it appeared that I was a NASA official of the Martian American space colony, but I really wasn't. But he believed it since it was psychic paper, and he took me to his teleporter. We teleported to Sydney in the middle of Australian headquarters. He took me to the Prime Minister, where I discussed and found out that these aliens were the Aparax. I've seen them before in their work. So I advised that the Australians don't go to war, but the Australian Prime Minister was set on war with the Aparax, and the world had given him permission to decide when to go to war. I talked to him about it, but he was not going to change his decision without evidence that the Aparax were willing to negotiate. He felt that you were attacked first, you had the right to attack back. I felt if you have the right to make peace, you should. If you have the right to prevent death, that you should. But he didn't feel that way. That night, I took out my remote for my time machine, and I teleported it back to me. It had some parts for intergalactic communicator in there that I had to fix up. It took me hours. I was up all night. But finally, when I got working, I was able to get in contact with the Aparax. The Aparax informed me that they didn't want to go to war, that the Australians had been exploring too far into their territory. So I decided, and they told me that all they did was give them a general warning because they were just being defensive of their territory. In their general warning, which for humans is an attack, was to cut a swath where no one lived. So they said they were willing to negotiate with humans, but if they attacked, it was war. So I told the Australian Prime Minister about this. He was pretty upset, but willing to negotiate. He got together the top officials around the world and negotiated terms with the Aparax. In the end, the Australians emerged as a new space and communications leaders in the world, and peace fell back upon the world. I left, but right before I left, the Australian Prime Minister Alfred White thanked me. Now I need somewhere else to go. I think I'll go to. Thanks for listening. This was the Aparax Swath. I've written it, but this wasn't off the actual writing. I just did what I remembered, the way I could tell it. It was a little exciting. I was just seeing how much time it took me. I need to cut it down a little bit more. Thanks for listening. Minecraft Indie, I'm back later. What?